I'd say it's a nut job.
Good afternoon, guys. It's been a few days since we unloaded this engine. You can see behind me the shop's going through some changes. We'll talk about all that later because right now everything behind the camera is an absolute disaster zone while we remodel some in here. We'll get into that later. Today we're going to talk about an absolute mystery motor that we know absolutely nothing about. We don't know any details on it. We have zero information. We're going to have to figure it out on our own. And I'm going to show you, hopefully, what this is and how we go about figuring that out. But first, let's take a look at the package itself. All right, first off, if you're a Ford guy, you can already tell it's 385 series. So we know it's either a 429 or 460. We know that. There's no other options. Now, let me give you a hint of the backstory of this engine, and you'll have every bit of information we know. So a friend of mine, his dad passed away. This was sitting in his garage when he passed away. Now, his dad was building a 56 Ford. His dad had told him that he was going to build a 460 to go in that 56 Ford. Now you know everything we know. This engine was sitting in there. Is this the engine he was building? Is this a stock motor? Is this even a 460? Could it be a 429? Is it wild? Is it mild? Is it just a stock rebuild? What is it? We don't know. We don't know any of the details. But we got some clues here that it has something been done to it. Because one of the things you ask yourself, is this even the engine that he was going to be or was building, or is this just some engine that was sitting around in his shop? We can see a new fuel pump. It's got a new water pump on it. It's got surface corrosion on it from sitting. A new distributor in it. It's not even tightened down yet. The intake doesn't even have the plugs or anything in them. It's been apart. New oil filter. The engine's been apart. Somebody painted it black. Not my style, but whatever. It's got new headers on it, which aren't even actually tight. So we've got a few clues here at what we're going to find. It's obvious something has been done here, but we don't know what. It's also got new plug wires on it that have not been hooked up to the distributor. So I'm going to start by pulling these plug wires off because we won't be using these anyway. These are tiny little plug wires. Also, we already know that regardless of what we find, the guy that now owns this engine wants to put a aftermarket intake and everything on it. So the intake's coming off anyway, which is good because now we get to look at the inside of the valley. But the first thing I'm going to do is pop some plugs out, and I'm going to look at the pistons, and we're going to see if we see any part number on the piston, if they're flat tops, if they got a dome to them, if they dished. Let's see what kind of pistons we got in it. That's going to give us an idea of what we're working with. Okay, we're going to pop that out, but first off, we got a casting number right here. It is C8VE-E. So this is a 68 model 429 or 460. So we know it's a 68 because it's got a C8 there. Pretty easy there. Now, in this world, the heads everybody go crazy of is the Dove heads. It's DOVE, so it would be a 70 head. You follow me? So let's get a plug out. Let's see what we're dealing with here. First off, we should be able to look at the plugs and tell if they're fresh, right? See what the plug says. That is a brand new plug. That plug has never been ran. That is an Autolite 45. So we got a brand new plug. So at least that's been done. Let me, sorry about that. Let me get the bore scope out here. And actually match the power button. Let's get in here and see what we see. Okay. Well, let me see. All right. It's bored 30 over, and it is fresh. This motor has never ran. Let me get you in here so you can see what I'm seeing. All right. Right there, if I can get the camera back on it, right there, we got kind of a glare. Let's do a little less. Let's do, oops, wrong button. Do a little of this. See if we can get the glare off of it. I could see it just a second ago. Work with me here just a little bit. Right there. There it is. We can see this engine is bored 30 over. We can also see it's got some nice crosshatch and all still on it. This motor's never been ran. It does have a dish piston in it though. So it is a 30 over engine. The cylinder walls look extremely good. I'd say that's a cast piston. I can run that part number right there, and it'll tell me exactly who made that piston and exactly what it is. But yeah, it's super clean. We now know this engine is bored 30 over. We know it's bored 30 over. We know it's got dish pistons in it. So we know it's not going to be no 1,000 horsepower monster. You know what I mean? Because it ain't going to have the compression there. I'm going to go ahead and look at the rest of these cylinders on this side. Just make sure everything looks even. There's nothing in there to worry about. You know, I don't worry too much. I'm going to put that plug right there. I don't worry too much about an engine that's been stored inside. I know for a fact this engine was in a garage. It was sitting inside and it was covered up. So I don't worry too much about an engine like that because really there's nothing you have to worry about getting in it when it's taken care of like that. This engine obviously is freshly bored. There's no doubt about that. The fact that it's got a dish piston in it makes me think, okay, he was thinking about just a driver. This piston's all the way at the top. Go, da, 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 da. Yeah, that piston's all the way at the top. Well, the same thing. The cylinder walls look great. Piston looks good. Let me see if I can brighten it up a little bit. Oh yeah, it looked great. Looks great. Yeah, everything looks good inside the cylinder walls. All the cylinder walls look good. Everything looks good. We have healthy cylinders. Now, I didn't mention it earlier, but there's no valve cover gaskets and no valve cover bolts on these. It never got gaskets on it. So I'm going to set these here because he's probably going to put aftermarket valve covers on it. I wonder if I can get, it's got stock stamped stock stamped rockers on them, and they're not even tightened down. They're loose. So I wonder if I can, I know we're going to pull the intake off, but I wonder if I can see down in here. Yeah, we have a hydraulic flat tapped cam. Now, when you see this type of stock rocker, you kind of think it's probably the best chance is that it is a flat tapped cam. But if you take your time and you measure your push rods, you can run a roller cam with stock rockers, as long as you don't have some monstrous crazy lift or whatever. So that tells me that this thing does have a hydraulic flat tapped cam in it. What does that mean? I don't know. Yeah, the engine's definitely been apart. We know that without a doubt now. We know this is a 30 over 429 or 460. That we don't know yet. It's a 30 over motor. The cylinder walls look excellent in it. It looks good. There's nothing so far that sends any red flags out that this wouldn't be a good running engine. So I'm not alarmed at anything I see yet. I think curiosity is going to get to me, and what we're going to end up doing is rotating this engine upside down, knocking the oil pan off of it, and we're going to see it's got stock rods in it, number one. Number two, we should be able to find something that tells us if it's 429 or 460. We should be able to find some kind of casting number on the crank. Now, I'm not a 385 series aficionado. I know FEs, and I know where to look for stuff on FEs. I might have to look a minute to find the casting numbers, what I'm saying. But we're going to take a peek, and we're going to see what we can find there. This thing has a light on it. I want to make sure I didn't read this number wrong. Thing has a light on it right there. Yep, C8VE-E. So it's a C8 head, so it's a 68 head on it. Oh, where is the block numbers on these? I think it's going to be on the other side. Nope, right here. This is a C9 VE block. So it's a 69 block, 68 heads. Now, I'm under the impression that could have came that way. And I'm going to tell you why. I may be wrong. Ford was not the kind of company that would waste product. So, if this engine was made in late 68 or early 69, then I'm saying that Ford would have used the block they had and the heads they had laying there. You know what I'm saying? So you could get a 69 block with 68 heads if it's an early 69 or a really late 68. You understand what I'm saying? So we have a 69 block with 68 heads on it. Nothing to leap up and down and scream that we've, found the holy grail of engines or nothing. It's probably, honestly, just a good running stock motor. But we don't know that yet. That's just a guess. I'd say it's a fairly educated guess. Now, I'm going to flip this thing upside down. We'll pop the oil pan off of it. We're going to pop this thing upside down. We're going to pop the oil pan off of it. And we're going to see if we can find that casting number on that crank and what kind of rods this thing has in it. You got any guesses? What's your guesses so far? Do you think this is just a stock rebuilt motor, or do you think there might be a little something in there? I mean, most people don't go back with everything just like it came from the factory, right? I mean, it ought to be a pretty good motor. It'll be a good motor for a driver regardless right now. I do like the fact that none of these are tight. They're just, that means it's not been sitting around with pressure on the valve springs. It also means that flat tappy cam in there has never been broken in. Yeah. I ain't scared. It's stock Ford intake. What year is the intake? We got here. I can't make the number out on the intake. It is a Fomoco intake. DIF block. Has new push rods in it. So, also, it's Fomoco rockers on it. So let's turn this thing upside down, without even checking to see if there's anything in it. Everything seems to be loose on it. Like they were in the process of getting everything put together. It does not have a new oil pan on it. This oil pan is beat up. Somebody was stump jumping in this oil pan. Actually, this oil pan is smashed right at the drain plug. It's definitely going to need an oil pan on it. These are the tiniest headed oil pan bolts I have ever seen. Let's pop this off. They all appear as though they're finger tight, like they're not even really tight. So not real sure. I mean, is it possible maybe he passed away in the middle of doing this? I don't know. Which is more desirable in the 385 series? The 460 or 429? I would think the 460 because it's more cubic inches. But maybe there's a little something makes 429 more desirable. I don't know. What do you think we're going to find in here? Same thing as the other, just fresh stock stuff. I can look at the engine and tell it's never been ran, so there shouldn't be any concern about the bearings. Let's pop it off here, see what it looks like. Oh. Well, bolts may not have been tight. They definitely glued it down. That's this oil pan will never go back on this engine. Oh, well, she's clean though. She is clean. Stock rods. Yep. Now we just need to locate. These are stock. These are stock 68 rods. They got the part date and all cast into them right there. So these are stock 68 rods. We have made one interesting discovery right here. 1010. This crank has been turned, so this crank did go to the machine shop and get turned 1010. Still working on finding that number. That's not it. Ah, right here we go. 4U. 4U. Right here. Now I just got to look up and see if a 4U is a 429 or if it's 460. I'll bring you in here and show you. Right here. 4U. So it's a 4U crank. All right, so one of the reasons I don't like going to Google for anything is it's not very consistent. I Googled a 4U crankshaft and I got about 5 quick hits off Google. 3 said it was a 429 and 2 says it's 460, has a 4U on it. So what that means is I'm going to have to dig into it a little more. May even just break down and measure the stroke and show you how to do that with like a wooden dowel and measure the stroke and just do it that way. So technically, I don't know if it's a 429 or 460 yet. I don't know. I do know it's got C8 rods. All the rods are 68 rods. The crank has been turned 1010. It is a 4U crank. It is 30 over. So there's something. And everything is new in it. So it's a pretty decent looking engine. The cylinder walls look amazing in it. I'm not mad at this engine at all. So the only thing that's not known right now is honestly if it is a 429 or 460, and if it has a big cam in it. Right here's the casting number on the block. The block is a 69 block, but it has 68 heads on it, 68 rods. We can see they did balance it because they've taken some out right here where they've balanced it. So it's got a balanced rotating assembly in it. All right, so after some research and a quick phone call, quick phone a friend, to somebody that fools with a lot more 385 series engines than I do, we have come to the determination that this is a 429. There's a couple things that we did to determine that. Of course, you can't always just measure the stroke. He said if it's got a smooth collar behind the pulleys, so it's pretty much 429. It's 429. If it had the big counterbalance behind it, then we'd have to dig into it a little more. Give or take. Let's don't call these the definitive rules, but with everything combined here, we have determined that it's 429. So we know we got a 429 here. We got what appears to be pretty well a stock 429. Well, not a stock one. It's been bored and stuff. So let's say a basic rebuild. The intake needs to come off because he's going to put a aluminum intake on it. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the intake off. We'll get to see the valley. I may leave the distributor in it right now and just pop the intake off. We're going to pop the intake off. It'll at least let us see the valley in here and see how clean it is. I don't imagine there'll be anything to see because everything else on this thing has been so clean. But we're going to go ahead and pop it off and take a look. All right, so now question. What's everybody's thoughts on a 429 in general? You like them? You don't like them? Your style, not your style? I think that this right here is going to be a good engine for what he's got in mind for it. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier or not, but he's got a 69 Mustang, and it is actually I think originally a 302 car, I think. And he's going to make a Boss 9 clone. Not to try to sell it, not to try to fool anybody, because honestly, this guy doesn't sell anything. But just for one of those cruise to the car show kind of cars, have a Boss 9. Why is all the bolts on this side loose and all the bolts on that side tight? That's kind of weird. So at the end of the day, I think this engine will be fine for what he has in mind. Again, I don't do a lot of these 385 series. I'm going to need a wrench for that one. I don't do a lot of these 385 series, so I don't know off the top of my head what stuff is. I have to look it up. But talking with a guy last night that builds a lot of these motors, we looked up the part number on the piston. It's just a sealed pyre piston, nothing extraordinary. And after looking the part number up on the pistons, seeing what the dish was on it, he knows what these heads are. He said he believes this thing is about 9.5 to 1 compression. That's not going to set the world on fire, but that's good enough for a fun driver, I think. I mean, let's face it. A Mustang's not that heavy of a car, not a 69. And it should be a lot of fun to drive, I would think. All right, let's see if this intake will come off here fairly easily. Getting a hold of it somewhere might be the bigger problem. It's not going to allow me to. Well, maybe it will. Hey, maybe it'll work. There we go. This freaking thing is heavy. Oh, aluminum intakes for the win. Just as I thought. Got a little crud fell off the intake. But just as I thought, this thing is absolutely beautiful inside. Look at this. Absolutely beautiful inside. Not even a bit of dust in here. She is. That's some big old port. Hmm. Hmm. Not even gonna say it. Hmm. I will say this: if you look here, now this is not how I do things. These that gasket's a little loose there. It's just laying there. These heads have been gasket matched, and if you look right here real close, you can see where they've started right here and kind of build these out and blended them into the gasket. Now that's not how I would port heads. I'm not going to pick on nobody. Everybody can do what they want to do. I would blend this. So when I do one in gasket match, I don't bail it like that. I blend it so that the entire port is now this size and the same shape is kept all the way back through there. That's how I do it. Now, you can do it however you want to do it, but when I gasket match, I don't just bail the end out. I take the entire port and make the entire port now this size. There's different theories out there. I'm not going to get into who's right and who's wrong. I have seen results on the track. Now, for a street car, I don't know if you'll notice the difference in any of it. But I will say that I've seen the difference on the track, and it does pick up if you make the entire port the same size as the gasket and not just bail it out like this. That's the only thing on this engine that I've seen that I seriously don't think I would do it that way. I think I'd do it differently. I would probably also put, adjustable rockers on it. But that's something you don't need. So a lot of people will go in here and they will clean up the area around the valve, the bowl, if you will, when they do some port work. I don't expect to see that on these because they bailed out the heads there, the intake there, the around the gasket. When they gasket matched it, they bailed it out, so I don't expect to see any bowl work, and there's not. These are just stock heads. They're clean. They have what appears to be new valves. What am I seeing right here? Yeah, these look good. I don't see anything in here that alarms me in the least bit. I'm gonna look down in here at the cam. Everything looks good in this engine. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna give the man the full report on this engine. I'm gonna tell him everything we've seen. It's 429. It's bored 30 over. It's got some dished pistons in it. It is absolutely fresh. There's never been oil put in this engine. You can see there's still remnants of assembly lube on the cam. The engine has not been broken in. It is a hydraulic flat tappet cam. It's got what appears new push rods. The crank's been turned. Everything we know about this engine. Now, I'm not going to do any more to it as is until he gets the report on what we found. The heads have been gasket matched, if you want to use that term. I don't like how they done it, but it's been done. At the end of the day, it's fine for a street car. Here's the question I'm going to ask you, and you can drop in the comments. This was your engine. What would you do now at this stage right here? Would you A, just put an aluminum intake on it or that factory intake, either one, back on it, fill it with oil, prime it, crank it up, run it, everything runs good, cam brakes in proper, put it in the car and run it? Would you do that? Now that it's down here, would you go ahead and maybe change the cam, change the rockers on it? Would you tear it all the way back apart and change the piston on it? What would you do at this point now, this engine right here like it is now? We know this engine is absolutely fresh. but we know this engine set for about a year. This engine is set and not been touched. So what were some of the things that you would do if this was laid in your lap right now and it was, all right, here you go. Here's your engine. What would you do to it? Let me know what you think. Hopefully, this was interesting to you. Hopefully, you'll remember to hit that subscribe button, share this, comment on it, all those things that you're supposed to do. And hopefully, this was entertaining to you. Side note, we also do have a members only thing that you can join as little as 99 cents a month. It's no big deal. If you don't want to, don't worry about it. Don't fret. Nobody's getting this same old content's gonna be here. The members only thing gets you some early content. You get it earlier than the others sometimes. Sometimes you get a special short or something along those lines. It's nothing dramatic. I'll be perfectly honest, more or less. It's just you saying, I want to help you out around the shop. Here's the extra 99 cents a month. You know what I mean? No hard feelings if you don't. It's not a big deal. But it does help. So here we are. Now, if you see this motor again, and you probably will, it'll be doing whatever he decides to do to it. Is it going to be just an aluminum intake, an oil pan, and button it up? Let's see if it runs. Is he going to decide to change things on it? Man, I tell you, you got something like this that's fresh. You kind of hate to take it apart. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a clean engine. Well, there you go. There's the mystery engine. We have solved the mystery. I'm calling this a stock rebuilt 429, and I'm saying stock with air quotes because it is bored over. It probably does have a tad bit better cam than factory. We've seen it's got a double timing chain in it. There is a difference. For those that don't know, there is a difference between a double roller and a double chain. Actually, I have two of those, and I'll show you right now in just a second the difference between them. But hydraulic flat tapped, I mean, I would call this a stock rebuild, or it's stockish rebuild. Let me show you those timing chains so you can see the difference. Okay, we're over here at the workbench, cleaning some things up, working on some things. Here's two timing chains. From this angle, they look the same relatively. These are both double timing chains. This is just a standard double timing chain. This is a double roller timing chain. It actually has little wheels right there that turn, where this does not. It's just a standard chain. It's hard to see on the inside there. It's just a standard chain that's twice as wide as a stock chain. You'll see a lot of people automatically say, I have a double roller timing chain, and they'll have this in it. That is not a roller timing chain. That's a double timing chain, but not a roller timing chain. This is a double roller timing chain. If you were to pick one up, you can feel these wheels roll and turn on it. They were like a conveyor belt. Where this, nothing moves. It's just a chain. This is basically a wide chain is what this is. This is true double roller. So there's rollers on each side, so there's two. It's double roller. This is basically just a wide chain is all it is. So if you didn't know, there's a little bonus content for you. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. As I said earlier, please remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, all those things. Help us grow the channel, help us with views. It's just all a tremendous help to us and allow us to do things like this engine here. We're doing it as a favor to a buddy. You know, views help kind of pay for some of the stuff on this. If we do anything. But drop it in the comments and let me know what you think we should do with it, what you think he should do with it, what you think the best course of action with this thing is. I'm telling you, I think it will be wicked cool with a 4-speed behind it in a 69 Mustang. That's just cool. You know what I mean? So, God bless you guys. I hope the Lord bless you more today than he did yesterday. Him be the glory. Guys, we will see you on the next one.
I'd say it's a nut job.